progress, you cannot allow yourself to get stuck in what is or what was. You have to be willing to let go of what is for the potential of what could be. And that's just a fact of life. God gave me this ability, this talent to do this. In return, I'm going to see it through, do it to my best.
You know, it's a lot easier to feel like that when you're making record-breaking music and not 30-second TikToks of grabbing your boy's ass.
If you're comparing yourself to the majority, you freaking can do a bodyweight air squat, probably stronger than most people.
But that's not even a joke. Like, literal people can't even do a squat.
I'm a natural athlete. Creatine's fine, bro. Creatine's fine.
It's funny because we actually have doctors coming in right now. So,
where's the TRT?
Welcome back, everyone, to the Johnny Drinks podcast. I'm your co-host, Johnny. I'm here with Gavin, and not my father. He has fatherly things to do. He's an adult male, 57 years old, has a family to attend to. So sometimes he can't do a podcast
Sometimes
on a Tuesday.
Can't. Yeah, you know what? It's okay. We're going to cut him some slack. It's unacceptable, but we're going to cut him some slack today.
Yeah. You know what? Next time Gavin's on, my dad will for sure be here. But we wanted to touch base with him. I don't think I've talked to you. That's not true. I haven't had a legitimate conversation with you since the last time you competed. No?
The last time we saw each other.
The last time we saw each other.
We haven't spoken since the last time we spoke.
It was insane, man. But since our last podcast several months ago, post competing, we haven't really sat down like this.
No, we haven't.
And we used to be best friends.
For this. Yeah, we used to be, huh? No, that was I'm finding this out now.
That was a jab. And actually, last week's podcast, I talked about you. You didn't even know because you didn't watch it.
No, you did tell me that, but you said that you did not include me in the top 5 influencers in your list, your personal list of top 5 influencers.
Right. And I also said other things about you. But
well, if it's not about me, why would I even listen to it?
No, I said it is about you, and you still didn't watch. So maybe I'll send it to you.
How do you know I didn't watch?
Because you haven't said anything to me.
Well, I'm just, I want to make sure that you know that there's more to this that meets the eye. I need time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about that after the fact. So last time you were here, we were gearing up for Sheffield or Worlds. Which one?
Yeah, so last time we had the podcast, I had just wrapped up Sheffield and was in preparation for Worlds, for my second World Championship, or third World Championship.
Yes. How did Sheffield go?
Sheffield, the first time, went really, really well. We came really close to solidifying a crazy world record total, world record squat. We really almost completely just made insane history, honestly. We were one lift away. We had gotten the lift. For those of you who don't know powerlifting, essentially you need 3 white lights, or 2 out of 3 lights to be white. There's white and red. Red is a bad lift. White is good. So you need at least 2. 3 means it's uncontested. Nobody can overturn it. No jury, no nothing. If you only get 2, it's a good lift, but there is the chance that it'll get overturned. So I only got 2 on my world record squat of 741. And so it was overturned by the jury. And because we lost that, we lost the world record squat. I think about $5,000 at least, because it's a money meet. And you get money for each world record. And we lost the world record total as a result of that. But we now have another opportunity for Sheffield again, because I just got the wild card invite.
Whoa!
Isn't that crazy?
Round of applause, everybody.
But I'm not in the top 5 influencers Johnny Drinks list, so I guess it doesn't really mean anything.
Really doing anything at this, well, actually, I excluded you on purpose. I said anybody that I know personally is off the list, because that's not fair. I don't know your content the way everybody else knows your content, and I was your content. Let's keep it real, man. I was,
true.
I was your right-hand man at one point.
That's true. Yeah, you're biased. You can't.
No, I love
weigh
that
in
shit.
on that. Yeah.
You know what's funny? I never actually it's hard to watch your own stuff. You don't know if it's good or not. You just have to rely on everybody else sort of saying. I was watching Rick Rubin on Huberman podcast. Did you watch that one at all?
I haven't seen the Huberman one, but I've seen
him talk about
Rogan and all that stuff. Yeah.
So he was talking about creativity, and he was like, the problem with the instant feedback loop of content creators now, it's very hard to have like validation and conviction in yourself, because you may think something's great. You find out in literally a half hour if it's not great. So now you're constantly like ditching ideas and having this concern or these questions of, am I actually that creative or not? So he talks about how you have to have a split of, yes, listening to feedback, but also having conviction in yourself and your content.
Yeah, well, actually, it's funny you said that, because I remember seeing a clip. I don't know if it was Rogan or if it might have been from the Huberman podcast, but he was talking about how, I don't know if he's spiritual or religious at all, but he used the term God. So I'm just going to assume whatever that is. Yeah. So he was saying that when you create from this perspective of, I'm going to give everything I can to this project, to this craft, for the sake of almost like as an offering, as a devotion to God in a way, right? Like this is for him. I'm giving him my best self because he gave me the gift of the ability to do it, right? God gave me this ability, this talent to do this. And so in return, I'm going to see it through, do it to my best. And if I do that, then that's all I need to worry about.
You know, it's a lot easier to feel like that when you're making record-breaking music and not 30-second
when
TikToks.
you're actually doing it well.
Not 30-second
when you're
TikToks
winning.
of grabbing your boy's ass. So a little bit different. But we were, God gave us that gift and we said, thank you. Here's to the world now how to properly spot a squatter. So we started out making these TikToks, what, about 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, definitely over COVID, and COVID was 2020, 2021. We're just about to enter 2024. So yeah, it's been...
Dude, it's fucking nuts how fast time flies. I guess let's take a quick step back. If you don't know who Gavin Adin is, he's a world champion powerlifter, placed 4th in...
So I won Junior Worlds,
right.
And then my first Open World Championship, we placed 4th. And last year had a similar situation with the squats. We would have placed 2nd, but we ended up placing 5th, I believe, in Malta.
And then Sheffield isn't the world record, right? That's the world championship.
So Sheffield is essentially 24 lifters, 12 men, 12 women, specifically selected. They're all champions. So they're basically just pitting, SBD chooses to pit against basically all these world champions up against each other. So...
Now, give us an example. So we know you're very strong. Your squat was like 740. For the people in the audience that have barbell squatted at least once in their life, what does a female world record look like?
Well, so I know like a natural athlete, a female deadlift, like an insane deadlift, probably like one of the heaviest, is around 600 pounds. I think like the heaviest ever might be somewhere around 600 pounds. Don't quote me on it. It might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that would be a number. Squats, if I had to guess... Probably around the same, honestly, because there are weight classes and there are like super heavies. But, for your average female, if you're squatting over 315 and you're a female and you're a natural athlete, you are very, very strong.
Bro, if you're a man squatting 315,
well, I mean, in the context of powerlifting,
going
like
to
people
any
who
gym.
do it. Yeah.
Going to our fucking powerlifting gym. There's plenty of people that can't squat 315.
Yeah.
Or they do and they take 10 minutes before each rep.
Yeah.
That's the crazy level of difference between, and talk about giving a God gift. You were gifted by God in a sense.
Yeah. Well, I also think too, like my perception is skewed because it's what I do, So like, and I've been blessed to be able to compete at the highest level anybody can compete at in this sport for the last like 4 or 5 years, So, so my perception is definitely skewed. But I will say, so to be fair, I guess if you could squat at least 2 times body weight is a good, and 2 times body weight on almost any movement, with the exception of bench would be a little bit lighter. If you can do something 2 times body weight, then you're strong. Think about it. So like you weigh around 175, 180 right now? 185?
Yeah.
All right. So like if you can squat at least 405, that's strong.
That's not 2 times.
Well, that's over 2 times.
Right.
Yeah, but slightly.
Not that slight. And if I deadlifted 170 would be 340.
Yeah.
It's not that strong.
So this is the scale. Bench is going to be like 1.5, squat's going to be 2, deadlift's going to be like 2.53. That's how most people scale it. But like it's all relative, Like
it's all
who
relative.
are you comparing it to?
And you realize too, like when it's so crazy how like the life you live when you're so into it, the outside perspective is so weird. Like how obsessed you are with lifting a bar up and down one time.
Yeah. Well, 90% of the population doesn't even lift to begin with. Doesn't train, period. Forget about weight resistance training. So if you're comparing yourself to the majority, you freaking can do a body weight air squat. You're probably stronger than most people.
But that's not even a joke. Like literal people can't even do a squat. Right. And that's why, again, like you get so fixated on your life, you realize that what you have consumed and have done for the past however many years, people don't even think about doing and could care less.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part of life. Like pick your path and go. Now, I want to show how obsessed you are. There are probably many things you would do to add, let's say, 200 pounds in your total.
I don't even want to know where this is going.
I'm not going to ask you the question. Probably think I don't care. I could not care less what your sexual orientation is. Doesn't matter to me. I want to ask you a question. 200 pounds on your total, would you chop off your left pinky?
No shot, because I could do that without. 100%.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
It's not what I thought you were going to say.
No, because like there's so many options aside from
you walk in
just that.
tomorrow, like you walk in the gym tomorrow, and you're now automatically squatting 850.
Yeah, no.
Doesn't do it for you.
No.
What would you have to do to chop off your left pinky?
It would have to be a bundle package of a lot of things like finances,
Oh, so it's not just powerlifting.
Oh, it's not. No, dude. My identity is not that tied into my like drive comes from trying to be the best. Period. It's not. I don't love powerlifting. I love to train. I think like a lot of people enjoy training, and you want it to mean something. You know, you want it to be for something. You don't want to just show up to the gym just to show up, right? So competitions give you that sense of fulfillment, right? But my drive to be a true world champion, the best in the like. That all comes from just me trying and knowing really that I have the potential to be great. Just me wanting to be great. Like that's what that drive is. So it doesn't have to be powerlifting. It could be, you can map that drive onto anything.
That's so interesting that like you at such a high level, you would think your whole life revolves around powerlifting and it doesn't.
Well, my lifestyle does.
No, but your mental doesn't.
But my mental doesn't. No.
Which is great. Yeah. Because there is going to be a day where you stop, or now there can be a day where you stop and you're okay with transitioning into a different path of life, or just accepting that was your past life. You can appreciate it. A lot of people look back and like they continue to chase that dream, or it was never enough for them.
Yeah, you have to think about progression, right? And I think in order to progress, you cannot allow yourself to get stuck in what is or what was. You have to be willing to let go of what is for the potential of what could be, and that's just a fact of life.
Whoa!
Yeah, I just dropped one, didn't I?
This dude.
But that's what it is,
philosopher.
Man. Yeah.
You should talk more about being a philosopher.
Yeah, I should.
On your TikToks and your Instagrams.
Oh, I don't know if I know enough for that. Although you're reading the Daily Stoic now,
yeah,
so you can.
It's 1 page a day, actually, people. But you got to start somewhere. And
it's like an excerpt too, right? It's not
like literally half a page. It's yeah, but hey, better than no page.
Yeah.
And I'm learning a lot. And I forget who else was talking about it, but it's like you're so much better off absorbing that than trying to read 50 pages in a day. You're never going to even comprehend any of that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I feel like the cool part about that too is it's something that's like you can apply. If not physically, at least mentally. Like you can think to yourself, like what was the one that you were just talking about before we started this podcast? You read it today or yesterday?
Yes.
Am I putting you on the spot?
No, Marcus Aurelius once said, I couldn't fucking tell you. It was something about, I don't know what the actual quote, but he was referring to how life is like one gigantic movie. And every individual has their character they're playing.
Yeah.
And he also goes on to say, this is by no means to say you should not have ambition or drive, but you should be very accepting of what has been dealt to you and appreciative of that, and then doing the best to become the best of yourself and not trying to be somebody else's character.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what happens is like, especially now with social media, I can go on today and watch nothing but powerlifting for a week. And now what happens is I'm obsessed with powerlifting. For whatever reason, my algorithm changes and now I watch CrossFitters and I'm like, oh, fuck, that looks cool. So now I'm in like this situation where I'm battling with myself. What do I want to be? Who is my character? I don't really fucking know because I'm watching other people live their life. I don't know what John Rondi wants to be.
Yeah.
And that's a hard one.
But obviously we can talk about like that, but taking a step back, you can apply that right away into your life. And that's kind of like the point, right? That's kind of the cool part about like what you're doing when you're reading like the Daily Stoic and stuff is that these are, even though, maybe you're not reading, Aristotle's whole freaking, library but at the very least you're taking something that's digestible and you can, quickly apply it. You can look at your life and think about what is your role? What are you trying to do?
Right. That's, I'll read that 1 page today and I'll say to myself, all right, let me be the best version of myself possible. And I can appreciate and accept that other people are doing maybe things that I would like to do, but that's their role and it's just not who I am. And then you realize too, you chase like this, especially us in content creation, you chase the thrill of like being viral and you watch what other people are doing, but they're viral because they are who they are, right? You can be, and I think that's the problem too. Everybody feels like they have to be one thing. I can like powerlifting. I can also like art if I liked art. I can like jujitsu if I like jujitsu. I can like going out and drinking. I don't have to be one niche and then be that guy. Like I'm labeled as Johnny Drink, so I struggled in the beginning. Like that's the only thing I could talk about is drinking. It's like that's not true. People want to listen to you because of who you are. The guy Sam Sulek is not trying to be anybody else but himself. And how many fucking followers that goddamn kid have?
Well, what's crazy too is like you're not just pulling this out of your ass. Like this is real. So like Beyonce has an alter ego. Deion Sanders, who's blown up recently, he has like said multiple times in interviews that prime time is not Deion. They're two separate characters. So when he's in the spotlight, when he was on the field, when he was playing, he would rehearse his catchphrases. He would rehearse that stuff. Yeah, he would write this stuff. Similar to how like a comedian would write a joke. And the idea was that like, this is a character I'm presenting to you. What you see is not who I truly am. This is a piece. And I think what we're seeing now because of social media in real time is this like dissolution of, so you would think of like Hollywood celebrities, right? And you don't really know these celebrities. You know them because of the characters they play. So when you see Denzel, you're like, oh shit, like he's cool, you know? But you have no idea what he's like behind scene, right? And so we're seeing that, but among the general population everywhere because of social media.
Right.
So we're all playing a character, you know? And so I think the great thing is you can have your own brand, but you just have to recognize that we all have these different characters that we present to the world, maybe even to ourselves, you know? And I think it's just a matter of, you know, if you stay true to who you truly are, it's easier. But I think that, you know, it's very difficult to do that.
Have you ever felt forced to be a character that you feel like you're not?
I don't know if I felt forced. I've definitely felt tempted
Yeah.
and confused as to whether or not I should play a character that I'm not, you know, especially like today, especially with what we do. Because think about promos. Like, I think part of what made McGregor was his ability to promote and market himself. Yeah. And it's easy for him to play that character because that's kind of like who he is. But take even Jake Paul, right? Like everybody's kind of these marketing guys, they're willing to throw themselves under the bus almost for the sake of the promotion and the marketing, and that's the character. It's not who they truly are, but they're okay with that. So when I watch these guys and I'm like, oh man, dude, I got to get to that level. I got to get to that, whether it be financially or even just the champion status, or, you know, I don't just think about like, dude, there's new world champions every single year in every single weight class. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody's remembering these names. It's not about that. It's a story, right? It's what you did and who you impacted. So to me, it's like if Arnold could be the reason bodybuilding blew up, and then he's not even from the country. He became governor. He became one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. Like, why can't I do that? So if I'm thinking ahead like that, well, how do I get there?
Yeah.
And you look at all these people that did it, they all had that character, right? And so 100%, sometimes I get confused. I'm like, fuck, man, do I just like be me, or do I need to pretend to be something I'm not, you know? And you kind of flirt with that line a little bit.
You flirt with that line, and then like sometimes you'll go down a path and you'll catch yourself like, wait, that's not me. Like you can, and like you said, we know it sells on social. You want to be very polarized. You want to say things that maybe you don't mean, but you know it's going to catch attention about girls or other guys or whatever it is. Like you can live that like fuck you lifestyle and probably get views. Are they good views? Maybe not. And do they represent not only yourself, but your family and people that surround you well? And if the answer is no, like I've caught myself being like, what the fuck am I doing? Like I'm not going to be this, I'm not going to portray myself as an asshole if I really don't think I am. And if I'm not willing to accept that there are going to be plenty of people out there that now walk around thinking that's who I actually am.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. Like you said, it's very hard to be, I don't want to say the word average, but just be like a normal human and then excel in a world that all you see is like the extraordinary people, the people that are doing outlandish shit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's tough too, right? Because so you can look at some of your favorite athletes. You're seeing them in the environment and in the mindset that it takes to compete at that level in that moment, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they're like that 24/7 around their family, around their friends. And so you have this misconception of like what that's actually like. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something too that because of social media, we're starting to see more of is the behind the scenes, you know? Who are people when they're not, when the cameras aren't on, when the lights aren't on, when they're not in the octagon, when they're not, you know, and I think that that's pretty cool. You know, that's pretty special because what it takes to be Mike Tyson in the ring, you cannot raise a family like that. Like that's a totally different,
Correct.
You know? And I think that now we're starting, because of social media, because of the lights are always on, the cameras are always on, we're getting to see that side.
Right.
And I think that's pretty cool, you know, because you start to realize like, oh shit, like, I can have my brand, I can be me, but it's okay for me to be who I am in every facet. I don't have to think about like, okay, if I'm going to be a world champion powerlifter, I should be this super serious, super motivational, all I care about is lifting. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
You know? But I do think, to your point, like what I found the most success with is when I've been the most extreme version of myself. So instead of trying to be something or trying to be too much of one particular part of me, just be the most extreme Gavin, period.
What does that look like?
Well, it's everything. I think it could be, 100%. I have a motivational aspect to me. I have a take life too seriously aspect to me. but I also like to fuck around. I'm also, I'm not going to say I'm funny, but like we make great content and it's fucking funny.
We're funny. Don't lie to the audience. We're fucking hilarious.
Yeah, bro. It's. I think that there's different aspects. I have a lot of creative aspects that I love to dive into. So like, there's so much more than just like, being a meathead getting under a bar. So I think that that's, if you take that and basically bring it to its extreme, that's when people get to see, oh shit, like this person's relatable. There's more to this than just, that one lane, that one aspect.
And that's my point, is like, you could see yourself and say, all right, well, I'm super deep and I can't ever be funny. But that's not the case. You are half and half. And it is pretty dramatic at some points. I'm sure it is maybe even hard for you sometimes. You're like, I took life so serious in this moment, but the next moment I'm realizing life is supposed to be a lot of fun. Why can't I always live in that state of just life is fun? And it's hard because that's just who you are. It's gonna be the ebbs and flows of super deep thinking and then appreciating just the moment. It's like it's like that weird balance.
Yeah. And it is tough to find that balance. But the thing is, like, we're all struggling to find that balance.
And it makes it hard now because, I mean, I'm an overthinker. I think you're an overthinker. You're not an overthinker. You're like, you'll sit in one thought for hours on end.
100%, yeah.
And I think nowadays, like we said, what we do, and when we started this whole thing, it was very different. We made TikTok videos. We had a lot of fun with it. People loved you perceivably. It was easy to fall into place to that character. Now, you and I are in worlds that everybody is trying to compete. And now we're not just competing with the other creators, we're competing with everybody that posted video on TikTok. So it's hard now because you're like, fuck, did that work? Or can it still work now? Or do I have to reinvent myself? What does that look like?
Well, and that's the thing too that I think is really important to note. So like my grandfather, he would say there is no competition. Like you think that there's a lot of people, but nobody's really trying. Nobody's really doing the work. Yeah. And that's true to a degree. Once you get into the top 1%, there is competition. And the difference is all of your competition is doing everything you're doing. They're working just as hard. They're spending just as much money. They're taking care of everything that you would be taking care of. So what is the difference? And I think that's when, look, and this is no disrespect to people who don't have those ambitions in particular areas of their life. I do think that you need to have ambitions. I think it's very healthy, especially because I know you have the potential to be great. But if your goal is to be average, that's fine. It's easy to be average. There's a reason why there's an average. But if your goal is to be above average, not just be above average, but be the absolute best at what you do, it's going to take something that you don't know about. There's an ingredient there that you don't know about that, guess what? Nobody knows about, because there's only one person who can be the absolute best. Right. And that's what's crazy about it. That's what you have to craft that. And that's what's so special, so unique about it, is that it can't be replicated. But it takes a lot of grit, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of discipline, and a lot of passion, a lot of sacrifice to get to that. That's why there's only 1%.
Well, I think they say like there's a crazy high percentage of like uber successful people that are literally manic. Like they truly think of themselves so much differently than other people think of themselves. Like just that extreme conviction and that you are better than other people that you walk around. And like it's one of those things where you kind of either you feel it or you don't. Yeah. If you walk around society and you're like, I know that for whatever reason I'm just better than all of you, you have to now channel that and do good with that versus just being a dickhead. And I think that's like the hard.
Well, and like make no mistake, like even for me, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I have these high aspirations, and some people have said that, oh, Gavin's arrogant. I promise you that whatever feeling I have on one end, I feel the same on the opposite end of the extreme. Whatever confidence I feel the same level of doubt. Even with this Sheffield invite, it was a real coin flip between me and arguably one of the greatest powerlifters to ever do it. And half of me felt undeserving, half of me knew it was coming. It's what it is. That's like there's two wolves, and the wolf that wins is the wolf you feed, but you need both. But the difference is like you're not trying to be. I know, bro. I'm a fuck the Daily Stoic, bro. Just listen to me,
here, bro. You know what? I'm tired of this bullshit, dude. These fucking sound. He's doing it for the sound bites. Whatever. Keep going, Dick. What do you have, a script over there too?
Yeah, I'll take royalties off this one.
Damn, that was good. Fuck.
But like what you were saying is important. Like because I hear a lot of this that alpha sigma content that's flying around right now, like all this, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna be the
You know what I mean by that,
But yeah, so it's like that stuff's floating around. But like, It's not necessarily that you think like, oh, I'm better than everyone, I'm whatever. It's I'm better than myself. I genuinely know that I have the potential to be fucking great. And so I have to beat myself every fucking day. And if I do that, I know I'm gonna win. So like that's my perspective. And the difference is, yes, like I said, some people they perceive that the wrong way. It's not my responsibility to help everybody understand where I'm coming from. My responsibility is to show you that you can be great, that you have the potential. So yes, I do believe I have the potential to be the best. I also believe you have the potential too. So that's the difference. You know, it's I truly do believe we all have the potential to be great.
What you just said was interesting too, is like that extreme feeling that you are the best is coupled with the down of I'm just not built for this. Or maybe this was a fever dream of mine for these past 2 years. Like there are parts of me where I'm always like, were these past 2 years fake? You know, like things were happening so well and everything was clicking, firing on all cylinders. And then you almost get like nervous and guilty. You're like, why? What did I do to deserve that? And am I deserving of it? Is it going to keep happening? And you realize that like I'm big on momentum. So if things are going well, things are going really well. But I realize now too, I can check myself and say, when things aren't going well, I'm very quick to spiral and be like, well, there it goes. It was over. Yeah. You got to check yourself on both fronts. Like if it's going well, yeah, appreciate it, but realize that there's going to be another flow or an ebb to that. And then when you're down a little bit lower than you'd like to be, just realize that that's going to end too. I see it every time like things aren't going well, and it could be financially or life. Like life does hit you hard sometimes and everybody struggles with certain things. You got to realize that I think that's like God testing you. Like you've always told God or whatever energy you want to believe in that you want this really bad. And he's going to ask, okay, how bad do you want it? Right? Like if you only want it bad when it's going well, you don't really want it that bad. You know?
Yeah. My perspective on that is similar. It's just more so in the sense of preparation as opposed to seeing how bad you'd want it, right? Like it's like if I gave a 15-year-old $1 billion and he wants a lot of money, but I'm going to give a 15-year-old $1 billion, is that the best time of his life to give him that money? Would he even know what to do with that?
Yeah.
You know? And so he needs to be prepared for that. You got to grow first, you know, before. And that's the thing. It's like, it's no different than my body when it comes to training. I'm a natural athlete. And luckily I haven't had too many. What's that? Creatine's fine, bro. Creatine's fine.
It's funny because we actually have doctors coming in right now. So
where's the TRT clinic? No, but like it's crazy because you know your muscle. So it's not just your muscle that has to move the weight. Your body has to be able to withstand the pressure. So your tendons have to be caught up to speed. Your ligament, like there's so much more involved, and so that takes time. You know, yes, I can squat 750 pounds today. So we knew that my body had the potential to do that. But if I did that 3 years ago, it would break me, right? So I needed to go through all the suffering and the training and the sweat so that I could get to this point. If I had just been given that 750 pound squat and I tried it 3 years ago, probably wouldn't have gotten it, right? It would have broke me. So I think there's a lot more to it than just like, you know, oh man, you know, how bad do I want this? You know, do I deserve this? It generally becomes like, I'm preparing myself for this. You know, this is an opportunity that I know is grand. And so it's going to require that on the other side, you know?
Right. Doesn't matter how bad you want it. If you're not prepared for it, it's
Yeah, I think the suffering is necessary.
Ooh, the suffering is necessary. Well, on that note, I'm going to take one quick commercial break. And we're back with Gavin Adin. He's about to flex and shit his pants. We're talking about his porn addiction off camera, and it's super sad, but he's finally kicking it. But you know what else is pretty crazy? Huberman is jacked. I didn't realize that. I didn't want to follow that up with Huberman being jacked, but I was just thinking two different things at the same time. You sent me that video. Did you realize he was that yoked?
I did not realize he was that fucking yoked, dude.
That's so cool. It's way cooler now.
Oh, 100%. He genuinely looks like an inmate. In the most respectful way.
Dude, and he's like carrying that, what the fuck is he carrying? A stone? Like walking up a hill? Dude. I was talking to Corey the other day, and he was talking about some guy, and I was like, I don't know, man, like just something about him like rubs me the wrong way. He's like, yeah, because he doesn't lift. I'm like, you think so? He's like, dude, men that lift weights are active and do some sort of physical activity, and they talk to guys that just like don't, like they sit on their ass all the time. It's like hard to relate.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, like at least somebody that goes in the gym and appreciates the gym. Yeah. You have something to talk about with.
Well, it's also like a different, I feel like the energy is different too.
100%.
You know, like even like if I'm talking to somebody who I'm trying to like either I work with or I've hired or I'm learning from, like this sounds so fucked up, but there's like a different level of like respect. Yeah. So it changes the energy.
It's not fucked up. It's just like you added an element of suffering into your life. Why should they walk around and not have to? But like that's your mindset. It is kind of flawed, I guess, because they could be deal with their own shit right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Push-ups don't cost a penny. The reality is, fitness is by far the best tool to improve your life in any capacity. And the thing is, there's no rules, so there's no excuses either. You can't say, "Oh, well, the system is rigged against me." It's like, look, brother, most of your choices that you have, right? Like, you can make the choice right now to get on the floor, do 100 push-ups, call it. That could be it. That's all it has to be. There's no rules that say, you need any more or any less. So if you do that, I think that's a start. But fitness in general is a massive, massive tool you can use to improve your life. So that's why, like, granted, it's easy because I don't have a family, I'm not married yet or anything like that. But even then, bro, it's like, if you can't find 10, 15 minutes, but you're going to talk to me about, there's so many conversations I've had where people try to rip into me about like discipline and this. And I think I'm like, brother, you can't even fucking do 2 pull-ups. You can't even push your own body weight off the floor. I don't know what am I supposed to do with that?
Right. You're a pussy.
Yeah, basically.
No, I'm just kidding. But I'm not kidding. Yeah, it is like you align with these people a little bit more. And you also question like, what do they do? I guess like other than work. And I guess that's the thing too. Like people think that just because someone goes to the gym, that like they're super disciplined, that could be the only thing to do.
Yeah.
Like that could be their obsession. And then they don't do fucking anything.
Honestly,
else.
it's like even sometimes the opposite. Like even for myself, like because I put so much energy into my training, like I become so much lazier in everything else because I just genuinely don't have the capacity for it. Like I don't have the mental energy, the mental stamina to keep pushing through all the other stuff that I have to do.
Yeah, what's up with that? Everybody's always like, I get out of the gym, I feel refreshed and I'm like, what are you talking about? I feel like shit. I want to pass out right now. Like I walked in to some health and wellness spot with my sister after like training, and the lady was concerned. She was like, "Are you okay? Like, are you hungover today? Are you tired?" I was like, "Oh, what do you mean I'm fine?" And I was like, "Maybe I just trained really hard." She's like, "Oh, that's probably it."
Yeah.
So I wonder what the balance is.
No, you definitely, if you train really hard, especially I think if you do a lot of weight resistance training specifically.
What do you think you'd be doing if you weren't powerlifting?
I would the thing is I know that I would need a sport to compete in for sure. So if I'm being completely honest with you, especially because of recently, I'd probably try and go to the Olympics for judo or something.
Okay, well, let's start with like a local tournament.
Well, I mean,
we'll
start there because we have to.
I mean, this is
like a stepping stone, but you don't stop in the middle of the river on the rock. You're trying to get to the other side.
So you started judo. How's it going for you?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I was boxing before judo, and I don't have too much martial art experience. Like growing up, I just did like Kenpo, Muay Thai, and a little bit of wrestling. The most though was like Muay Thai and Kenpo. So boxing was a little bit familiar, but judo, I had never done something similar to judo. So, but my dad's a junior Olympian, so it's in the blood.
That's fucking nuts. I'm surprised you haven't been doing it since like a child.
I wish, man.
Are you good?
Wish. I mean, I have really good defense because I'm 5'5" on a good day and
How do you throw you?
Well, it's tough because when I sprawl, it's really difficult. Well, so here's the thing: some of the black belts that I'll spar against, they're really tall, and they're jacked, so they'll fuck me up. But like most other kids, there's only one other kid who's a white belt who has a ton of wrestling experience. Who like it's not that he's better than me, but I have to use so much muscle and energy to defend him that it gasses me. By the end of like 3 rounds, I'm literally dead.
How long is a round?
2 to 3 minutes, and then there's like a golden round they call it. I think if it's a tie. So sometimes at the end of a sparring,
I thought it'd be longer than 2 to 3 minutes.
I have honestly, that's just what we do in the dojo. So it could just be like a conditioning thing. I don't know.
We're good. Sorry. The dojo. That's funny you call it that.
Dojo.
Yeah. That but that you're showing appreciation for the art. That's good. I like that.
I love that.
Yeah. What's your favorite throw right now?
Ooh, probably the shonagi.
Which is,
I'm pretty sure that's the one or the uchimata. One of those.
Uchimata is
the hook, right? When you come through
on the most forward leg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the closest leg to you.
So shonagi, I'm pretty sure is when I come in. So if I'm using a gi, I have one hand on the collar of the wrist and then one hand on the collar by the neck. And then when I come in, so my elbows flare up, and then I pivot under, and I use my shoulder underneath yours. My hips go into yours, and I basically you don't have to drop to your knees, but some people drop to their knees, and I take you over the shoulder that way.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll put you in an arm bar or just fucking smash your face.
How long have you been doing it?
Right now, I guess consistently 3 months, 2-3 months.
Good for you, man.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you.
It's gotten less consistent recent because of Sheffield. I've decided to like completely prioritize Sheffield round 2.
When is Sheffield round 2?
February 10th.
Where is it?
Sheffield, UK. It's about 3 hours north of London.
Dude, I went to Manchester. It sucked.
Yeah.
Food sucked. People sucked.
They don't
I'm
like
sorry.
us, bro.
They didn't. Maybe that was it. Maybe they just didn't like us. They're
They don't
all
like us, dog.
nasty, dude. Like I walked around like at night, and I'm like, these people are mean. Like just people I don't want to hang out with.
Yeah. No, I genuinely am convinced that they just don't fuck with Americans. I'm not gonna lie.
Maybe they just knew I was American.
Yeah, bro, listen to yourself.
I guess, but I wasn't talking. I was just
Hello.
walking. They're just nasty. Bad teeth. Everybody's got bad teeth over there.
You fucking
What's up
slam
with
in
that?
Manchester. I hope you don't have an audience in Manchester, bro.
Oh, if I do, I'm sorry. You can come for me if I do.
Nah, the thing is though too, it's like sometimes like there's seasons, bro. Like imagine you came to New York and it's like March, it's like Christmas is over. There's no holiday spirit. It's just gray, slushy. Like nobody wants to get up in the morning. You know what I mean? It's like, it's totally different. Or going down to Jersey Shore in the winter. It's like, who's there? It's a ghost town. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to think of the worst month to be up here. March is a really, really good one.
Yeah.
Because that sucks. It does. Like it's not even like good snow. It's like the slushy fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Because
Because you're almost at spring, but you're not. It's cold. Everything's gray and dirty. There's no holidays really to look forward to except for like maybe like Easter, I guess.
But that's not cool.
No, it's not a cool one.
Unless you're like super religious. Actually, my family's getting very religious right now.
Really?
My mom and my sister go to church every Sunday. They've been begging me to go to church, and I'm not against it at all. I do appreciate and respect religion as a whole, and I'm very spiritual. I don't know which one to really. It's hard to figure out which one to follow, and maybe it's best just to pick one and follow the learn because all the learnings are sort of similar.
Yeah, well, I think so. For me, so I'm Christian, but I was like raised Catholic, and it took me a lot to find my way back into faith. The biggest difference for me is it's a relationship with Christ. Religion doesn't exist to me. Religion killed God. Relationship with Christ is what matters. So there's no formality. It's not about any of that, right? And for me, it's about developing that relationship. So if I do go to church, it's non-denominational stuff. It's usually like pastors who will give a sermon. There's music, that kind of thing. But a lot of it's kind of on you. It's what you want it to be, and it's your job to make the effort. But the ultimate thing is really just knowing that we're all imperfect. We all sin, but there's nothing that we can do. There's no earning it. There's no sacrifice. There's no nothing. There's nothing. Jesus already paid the ultimate price. Because of him, you don't have to do anything. You can come as you are. You just have to give yourself and allow Jesus in. And that's what's the beauty. That's the beautiful part. So he gave suffering the meaning because he paid the ultimate price.
You sound very religious.
No, I mean, like I said, I'm not really religious. I don't go to church or whatever, but I've developed my faith in Christ 100%.
You must
I've
read a
developed my
lot.
relationship. I'm trying to read more scripture, but it's just tough, man. I struggle with it.
You read every day?
I don't read every day. I go through phases. I'll have like 3 months where I'm reading every day and I love it. And then I'll go 6 months of like zero reading and I just consume bullshit, TikTok and Instagram.
Dude, I am on a rampage right now. 9 hours plus a day.
Yeah,
I just can't. I can't. I'm in the spiral. I can't.
No,
get
but
out
you
of my
know
phone.
what? I'm hitting that, but like I'm at the point now where it's like I'm at the breaking point where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
I'd
but
say
I keep
the same
doing
thing.
it.
I've been here for a year, so I don't know if that breaking point ever ends because I'm right there, bro. I'm like, I hate this, and you don't. And then you start like appreciating what you do less and less because you're like, you're just feeding that addiction for somebody else. But I went down the shore 2 days ago and my phone died and I have the new iPhone 15. So nobody had the charger there. So I literally went like 16 hours.
It's a different
no phone.
charger? What
Yeah,
is it? USB-C?
It's the Mac charger. It's a pain in the ass.
Wow.
Anyway, I went like 16 hours no phone and I literally was like, I'm so fucking bored.
Yeah.
Like I wish I could have
crazy.
said, wow, I felt great. I was, and maybe there is like a breakthrough point.
No, there's definitely withdrawal for sure.
Oh my God, dude. I was like, what do people do without phones?
Yeah.
Like we were like playing cards.
Yeah, who plays
This
cards?
sucks. Like, this is so unstimulating.
No, I think what I found too is like you have to be careful. You are what you eat, right? So like depending on what you're consuming on social media and stuff, I think that can make like you don't necessarily need to abstain from your phone, but if what you're consuming is the BS content that we all watch, like the entertaining stuff that doesn't really do much for us, yeah, that's totally different than like listening to informative podcasts or like reading up on how to make this stuff better, how to do your business better. I think that's completely different. But like, yeah, I struggle with that for a lot. But honestly, bro, like for me now, if I just fill my day with physical shit, then I don't have to worry about it as much.
That's the thing too, because my life is solely focused on this phone. So I could literally sit in my apartment and if it's like a day where we're not filming and I'm just editing or I'm talking to brands or clients, I could sit and do nothing physical besides going to the gym. Like just getting outside and going for a walk or going to a different destination to do the same shit helps you get out of that vicious cycle.
Also though too, bro, it's like, which I think is the truth for anything. I think just for us, for our generation, like our struggle is going to be with our phones and social media. But I think that like, it's almost like, you know, you have that girl you love that breaks up with you, right? And that pushes you into that. That's never the push you need. Yeah. Never had that. No, it was just your boyfriend that ended it.
Oh man. Let's not talk about him.
Still very touchy.
Yeah, dude, what the fuck, man? Come on. Continue.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you need like a push, something to flip the switch where it's like, okay, I'm done with the bullshit. I'm done with the procrastination, the placating. I want to get serious about whatever I got going on.
Yeah.
And that's helped me really like narrow my focus as well, where I'll just like shut my phone off or, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I did realize, like in the 16 hours, I'm acting like it's been like a year, but in the 16 hours, and half of it I was sleeping. Like it wasn't like I was like, I literally slept 8 hours. It was 8 hours without my phone. But I thought so much, like so many thoughts that I was numbing my whole life because I'm just always on this phone. I got to think through. And I'm always like, man, imagine I gave myself more of that time every day. Yeah. Like I really should sit down and be like, all right, I'm gonna lock my phone in my room for an hour. At least just like sit and think. You don't know what the fuck you're gonna like as a creative and like that's your job. You have no clue what ideas are just festering in here waiting to come out.
Yeah. Well, I also too, I like to compare, and this kind of really helped me instill some better habits. I started to think about like dieting, right? And again, I do believe you are what you eat in every way, in every shape. So if all you're doing is consuming content, right? You're never actually expending. You're never actually using your own energy. So what happens if all you do is just eat like shit? Especially if you're eating shitty food. You just sit there, you get fat and lazy, right?
Yep.
And you lose your ability to even move and do shit. You know, and do shit well.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing with the content or with anything else. If all you do is sit there and consistently consume content, and it's always, you know, even if it is good content, all you're doing is consuming, you're no longer expending. You're no longer practicing your own skill, your own talents. You almost like start to lose. Definitely. You get a dull edge, you know? So like I noticed for myself, like my writing ability decreased.
You write?
My ability to, well, yeah, bro. I mean, everybody, didn't you write in school? Didn't you write essays and all that other shit?
I don't think I could write a page right now.
That's a problem, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I do not think I can write a full page about anything.
Yeah. Well, you definitely can.
What do you write about?
Well, think of it this way. It could be anything. It could be your own thoughts that you're putting to paper. It could be you writing out a business. Yeah, 100%. Isn't it like I loved growing up, I loved reading like fantasy books and stuff like that. So I used to try and write shit like that. But like it could literally be writing a blog, writing a you know,
I hate it. Can't do
writing.
it.
You know, but it helps you think because writing forces you to work through your thoughts. You know what I mean?
A paragraph is a lot for me. Like I don't write paragraphs.
But do you feel like consuming tons and tons of content has inhibited your ability to think clearly and like really discern, okay, what is my own position? What is my opinion? Can I articulate this well?
Yes.
It's decreased your ability to do that, right?
I'm well aware I have a problem for sure. The fact that I can't write and the thought of it like really makes me cringe, and all I do is consume
dude makes
content.
like fucking
I just can't fucking fathom the thought. But that's the point. I do have to just, and I think that's the problem too. Is that everybody wants change, and then you realize like change is uncomfortable and it sucks. Yeah. For me to be like, I'm gonna put my phone away and think, or I'm gonna put my phone away and journal. I know these things are good for me, but it feels so shitty in the moment that I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go back to my phone and fuck up my dopamine sensors. Like that's what the real problem is. Yeah. I've gone, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but I'm so addicted to my phone that like I would rather do this than like hang out with people sometimes.
Oh, 100%.
It's so fucked. Like if you had some moments like, what would you take a step back and be like, what would you want to be doing right now if you could pick anything? There are moments where I'm like, just sit on my phone.
Yeah.
And just watch nothing.
100%. There's something like cathartic about it. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's terrible. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that's it's hard, man. I'm not saying I have the answers, but my problem is that like it shocks me into action because it's like, fuck, if I keep doing this, I'm going down a bad, especially if I'm not happy with where my life's at. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I'm not happy with where I'm at. So like I have no excuse. It's almost like, okay, so you're gonna bitch about where you're at, but then you're also gonna you're going to continue the cycle of what's putting you where you are. Like that's, shut the fuck up.
Right.
So
when you're very happy and content with what's going on, you almost give yourself that release and ability to like go do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Because things are going well. But again, like you could be doing the same things and the results are a little bit better during this time versus that, because that's just how life works sometimes.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
So we've kind of floated around a bunch of little mini topics in this conversation, which is kind of cool. It's like a nice relaxed conversation. This is more like a normal conversation.
It's just us, man. Just
so
us.
We were talking a little bit though about like creatives, content, influencer stuff. We both create content, different industries, but we also monetize differently. I think one thing, massive misconception with business owners, with influencers, they think that followers is dollars, right? Yeah, exactly. So you're probably the only person I know who's been able to monetize and leverage your audience as well as you have.
Huh.
So, and I don't think people, and I don't want to like expose, I don't know how much you're comfortable talking about. So, but I'll share just like a little snippet. I know where John was at, 4 years ago, and it was not where he's at now. But even then, the hustle was the same. So like, even though the numbers scaled, the mindset was always the same. Like people probably don't know this, but you had an app, Stu United, right? Yes. Before really diving into the content stuff. And that app wasn't just like a fun little project. You were doing funding rounds as like a fucking 20-year-old kid out of college. Like that's to me, that's pretty crazy. Like I know to you, you're like, oh, whatever. But to me, that's pretty crazy. So like that same point is that same mindset was applied to this stuff. So it's not like this stuff just came. You just simply mapped the hustle onto a different industry, a different vehicle, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So my question to you is, you're an influencer, try to make it blanket. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, whatever. Yeah. You got to go from 0 to 10 grand a month. What's your step? What are you doing?
Well, right now?
Yeah. Okay, but you have some following. You have some following. Yeah.
Well, first off, thank you. That was very nice for you to share my story, and I appreciate it, because sometimes you don't look back enough, and you do. Everybody goes through journeys. Anyway, right now, I think there are always going to be like little things that have their moment in time that are truly special, in like you won't get this opportunity again type of thing. I think what's going on right now with TikTok Shop and how much they're optimizing, how many dollars they're pouring in to promoting the products is not going to last. Like, and I don't know when it's going to stop, if it's going to be in a year or 5 years or 6 months. You should be, and I say this as like advice to myself and other people, you should be harping on getting your own products on TikTok Shop, reviewing products, promoting products of somebody else, but making it very organic and natural into content of your own, but just cranking out content. And I got really good advice from my buddy Malik the other day, who's a genius. Kid came from China. I say kid, he's like 30 years old, but started out on their platform that's like YouTube's, I think it's like Du Yang or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? No. I forget what, but he had like millions of followers, like really, really successful influencer. Now runs like an agency where he knows and understands how valuable that is, and has 6-figure contracts with different brands all the time. And he says, the concern that creators have of like brand loyalty, you have to realize like followers have a very short memory. If you run a ton of ads and like, oh, I hate this guy, but then you post content that they actually like, they're back to you way more than you think they would be. So he's like, don't worry so much about that fear of losing your audience. They aren't as loyal as you think they are anyway right now. That's, I think, the biggest point, especially on a platform like TikTok. You could have millions of followers and then get 20,000 views. That just goes to show that those millions of followers are not Jesus' disciples. You know what I mean? Right, so make content for the sake of being super entertaining and engaging to the people that are watching, but also start to realize like these moments in time, like back in the day when brand deals were easy to make money. You should be taking as many as you can without sacrificing your overall brand, but you really should start thinking about extension brands off of what you already have. So to answer your question, you have very little following or like a decent amount, but it's not like enough to go sell your own products. Start focusing in on making a ton of really good content to promote other brands. Making $10,000 a month, if you're very engaging as far as content, I hate to say the word like isn't hard at all, but it's very easy to attain if you find the right people to work with. There's plenty of brands out there that could find a lot of value in your brand. If you don't want to go that route, again, go and try to find products to put on TikTok Shop and promote those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is be very proactive with your audience. So constantly, obviously, upkeeping your content,
Yeah,
doing
definitely.
everything and make great content, and then work with brands, right?
100%.
And try and get those deals there. And then it sounds like that third hidden subtle thing, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so just correct me if I'm wrong, is whatever's being pushed and promoted by each platform for monetization,
Correct.
take advantage of that.
Right.
Okay.
Because Instagram had a time where, if you use the poll, and it's still that same, if you use a poll on your story, the engagement's always going to be better.
Yeah.
Is it now your audience is engaging more, or are they promoting to more people? I don't really know. But there are little things you have to realize about these platforms that are a bit different. And you have to be very focused on it. Like, just because you have millions of followers does not mean you're going to wake up the next day and have all these big time brands flooding your email.
Right.
It's never going to happen, especially now, because it's not 5 years ago. Having a million followers 5 years ago on Instagram was huge.
Yeah.
Now it's like, all right, another
It's like
person with
almost
a
like a
million.
dime a dozen now.
Yeah, and the reality is the follower count matters a lot less. Like, you know how it is. You can have a video flop and you have 100 and some thousand followers.
Yeah.
And that's the struggle of just, you got to make really, really good content.
All right. So then my follow-up question is, there are other people trying to do what you do.
Yeah.
They already do it, and some of them do it really well, right? Even if it's like unrelated and it's in like the food space, right? So the question is, what do you think is the difference as to why you've been able to financially earn 5x, 10x what these guys are earning, despite the fact that, like, and I mean this in the most respectful way, the content's basically the same.
Well, I think you have to realize, like, what is your goal with content creation? Are you just trying to go viral and make and have millions of followers and get millions of views? That's great. If that is your goal, then you hyper focus on that. But there's a whole other side to making money, and that's why management is pretty crucial for most people, because they're not thinking like that.
Management as in like a management
Outside
agency
management companies,
team.
right?
Okay,
Because if
okay.
you're not thinking about it, then you're not focusing on it and you're not doing what you have to be doing. So it's just, I think I put a focus on it when I realized that this was going to be like my dad and I's living.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just making money for myself to skate by. I'm not 21 years old
You
anymore.
employ almost your whole family at this
Yeah,
point,
well, that's like, I want that to be the goal. I want this to be everybody's involved.
Yeah.
And so that was my focus. Like, I knew we made great content. I also knew that there's always going to be money left on the table if I sit around and I don't pay attention to what's out there. And so right now we're in a recession overall, like as a country. That means there's way less dollars going into, I would say, like the bottom level of marketing right now, right? Like, people are always, these big time brands are still going to run commercials, still going to do the billboards, still going to have ads on radio. This is still very new for them. So the first dollars they cut is going to be from influencers normally. So you're not seeing as much in, I guess, like in rotation. So the money is not where it once was. You got to be very creative to make as much, if not more, than what you tried to make last year.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing too. You got to realize, as a creator, just because you have more followers, it doesn't mean it's more dollars. And don't get upset when, oh man, last year I made this much and this year I'm not making, like, you're not going anywhere. You have to be a little more creative now,
Right.
and figure out. It may take you 6 months to figure it out. And then now your stream of income is very different.
Yeah. Well, and there's also like the personal finance side of it too. I feel like, yeah, it's not just about what the business is making you. It's what you're doing with that investment wise and whatever else you do outside of Johnny Drinks, right? Or
Yeah.
outside of whatever you do as an influencer. I think and I think this is a common misconception too with athletes, right? Like, it's not just the contract money that you need to look at, because there's taxes, there's all this other, there's costs, there's all this other stuff that sneaks up. It's what you're doing with that once you have it. And it's kind of like more, I think, about like, how much you can keep, from, not from the government, but you're trying to do everything you can legally, but keep as much money as you make. But then also what you own, as opposed to just the cash flow itself. But I think it's tough because you're right. It is a spot that I feel like the well kind of runs dry. What's your take on, so like for me in the fitness space, obviously one of the go-to things is selling training, coaching, programming, nutrition stuff, all that. And that's great, because what's cool is I get to, of course, have a business that feeds me, but I also get to impact people in a very positive way. I get to change their lives, and that's awesome. But if I lose my Instagram account tomorrow, my TikTok account tomorrow, that's 500,000 followers immediately gone, right? And all of that content, all that work gone. So what's your take on building out your own personal vault almost of like a community, emails, like whatever? Should influencers be thinking about that?
1,000%. I mean, it's hard though. It is something where, again, that takes a lot of effort. To build an email base is very, very hard. I mean, because I don't do enough and I should be focusing on it more. I have, I don't want to like say the number, but not even close to what my follower count is in email subscribers. And that's where real dollars come from. Because again, if you can monetize on 10,000 people, you can make a lot of money every month.
Yeah.
And for the right reasons, you should be providing value that matches that money that's coming in. You don't want to scam anybody because that well runs very dry. And that reputation is very hard to get over. Yeah. It's just the guy, like, listen, if I was very ad heavy and there have been points in times where we ran way too many ads in a month and then people catch on and they don't like that. They'll get over that. They won't get over you scamming somebody because you wanted to sell something and make a quick buck. First of all, that quick buck, we talked about it last time, like the business of creators. People see this as like a flash in the pan thing. Let me make as much money as possible in 2 years because after that I'm over. That's not a career. Careers are 30 years long. You know, what am I going to be doing when I'm 50 years old? Is it going to have anything to do with content creation? I hope so. I hope it has something to do with the space because that's what I've learned really well. You know, maybe it's not me on camera, but it's something to do with this. So if you want that to be your goal, you have to start doing things that are in that direction. And the other thing too is the creators that make the most money are the ones that start their own businesses. I mean, Prime and you know the Kardashians were able to monetize their brand by doing things that are not content related. You know.
Yeah, and I think like, I mean, granted I'm in a different space, so I can only speak from like anecdotally what has worked for me. But I think Andy Frisella has said this too, one of the quote unquote easiest ways, which is, it's ironic because it's not easy at all, but the easiest way is to just be the best at what you do. Whatever it is you do, try to be the best at it, and opportunities will come your way. Whether it be like partnership deals, business partnership deals. It could even just be like relationships that you form with people that you never thought you'd need or that you'd want, but somehow like you have friends that are in spaces that you didn't do any business directly with them, but they've connected you with people that it's like, holy shit. Like I never, like you did stuff with Kevin Hart, you've done stuff with Dana White. Right. You know, did you just wake up one day and know Dana White? You know, like these connections I feel like were built over time, you know? And I think that's kind of the cool part too, is if you're really good at what you do, success attracts success. And I think if you stay in your lane and really focus on what you're doing and you try and be the best at what you do, other people are going to be attracted to that.
Well, so like you are actually a different case. A lot of people in your space is tough, bro. Your space is probably the hardest space to be in from a creation standpoint and a mental standpoint. I can't imagine having to look a certain way for me to create content. Like me to take off my shirt and be like, fuck, I'm not feeling it today. Or always be insecure that I walk outside and the first thought somebody has is, he's not as big as he was in pictures. She's not as skinny as she is. Like that thought will drive somebody crazy. And it does. I see all of you guys and you're all very similar in that. Like your highs are real high, your lows are pretty low, and you guys struggle with like the mental side of things. And we all do as creators, which is very underlooked. But anyway, you're different than these other fitness people is because you have a separate career or thing you're doing outside of content creation, which is your value add. That is your differentiator between the other guy that just looks jacked. You're a world champion powerlifter. So I've always said it to you, you should be hyper focused on being the best at what you do, and everything else comes because people watch your content for who you are. They're not watching because you're somebody else. So they're gonna keep watching it, and the better you get, the more notable you are, the more your engagement's going to be higher than
well, and then that's twofold too, right? Like, because especially for me, you know, unfortunately, a lot of my value as a man can come from, if I'm not careful, can come from my performance. And when you give so much to something, and the real trick here is, and I don't want to get too deep, but it's like, you know that you have the potential to be great, but what if you don't? Like, what if you have this dream of like, this is where I want to be, and you physically, mentally, spiritually, you do not have what it takes to eventually get there. You just don't. That's despair. I mean, that's like, oh my gosh, why? You know, why am I even here? And so when you fall short of a goal consistently, especially a big goal, you know, you're going to feel that. And then that feeling is what will then affect your ability to operate to the best of your ability in every other area. So even though I like, personally, we were talking about it before, like I would delete my social media, you know, like to me, like that's not my life. You know, social media is just a vehicle to impact people in a positive way. But my pursuit to be the best at what I do, I mean, that's my life. That's what I've devoted my life to. So if I fall short of that goal, especially if I do that multiple times, that's going to impact my ability to do well on social media, to make the content. And that's anytime I've seen those crazy like ebbs and flows, people are like, oh dude, I haven't seen you post, whatever. It's always been when like I worked really fucking hard to do something, didn't achieve it. And then I spent 3 months like not like down and out, but just like, man, dude, like I don't even want to see myself in the mirror. I don't think these people want, you know, that's how you think.
Yeah, every creator goes through that, and real life impacts the fake life you live here because again, we're touted as like a really good father and son duo or the best father and son duo. And if you want life advice, you go to these guys, or you want to learn how to make a cocktail, you go to these guys. And life gets in the way, and sometimes you don't feel like that. Yeah. And if you don't feel like that, it's hard for us to make content like that. So I really do think you got to put everything else aside. Like the money will always come if you do something very genuine and successfully. So for us, it's like, let's make really, really good content, but what's the purpose here? Why are we making this content? It's to entertain, sure. It's to teach. It's to have a real positive impact on the world. And if that is your goal, you'll keep creating because you have to keep creating. Like it literally, it's your purpose now. And the money is just going to keep flowing in. But when you start focusing on the money first, you create content in like through a different lens, and it's never going to be as good. And you're actually going to make sometimes less than, the opposite. So it's like that tough balance.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance. I think it's helpful if you do have, even if it's not like a management team, but just people that understand different aspects of the business, different aspects of what you're doing, that can either keep you on track, hold you accountable, or even just offer like a new set of ears, a new set of eyes, You
need that. Like you need, honestly, man, you need the perspective of somebody else that's not in, what do they say, the forest or the trees type of thing.
Yeah.
If you don't have anybody to talk to, you don't know what your content looks like to other people. So it may take literally, sometimes it's been like 5-minute conversations with like even these guys behind camera. And they're like, oh, why don't you just do this? And I'm like, why would I do that? And like, well, because for these reasons. I'm like, holy shit, I've never thought about that. Like I've never thought about what you guys would feel if I made or we made content like that. And the same thing applies to you. Like we've gotten in our own head about what worked and what didn't, that if we just took a step back and asked the question, my dad is always asking questions, and I kind of think it's corny sometimes, but he's always asking strangers. They'll like come up to him and be like, love your stuff. And he'll be like, what do you love about it? And I'm like, dude, what the fuck, man? Just say thank you. Let's go. I'm like, what are you doing? And they'll be like caught off guard, like, but he'll get answers. Yeah, I love that you did this in that video. And he'll be like, see, John, I told you. And I'm like, yeah, that was a little bit weird to ask people, but it's just, it comes from a place of not really knowing or thinking that's weird because he didn't grow up with that. Yeah, that's a question. That's a very valid question. You said you love our content. It's not,
bro. You can't sit like that next to me.
How am I sitting?
What the fuck are you doing right now with these knees in, toes out, kind of thing?
Dude, sometimes I catch myself like with the weird. Dude, there's a picture of me, and I'm like this, literally like this. Like I have like a big sweatshirt on. I'm like this.
This is what happens when you become an influencer, guys. Sorry to cut you off, but I just
this has to stop.
We can't have that around.
Anyway, so so what I was saying was, fucking, now you got me conscious about my. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so yeah, he'll ask the questions because in his eyes it's not fucking weird. Like it's just asking. My eyes, it's like, oh, you're looking for that ego hit again. What do you love about me? You're not a pick me girlfriend or boyfriend. You're asking because you're curious about what do people like about you. I can tell you right now what people like about you. Like if I were to watch you, and I've told you this all the time because I feel like sometimes you need it, is like you are who you are. So you're very intelligent. You're not just a meathead. You voice yourself and explain things very well. The reason we took off in the beginning was not me asking the 5-worded question. It was you answering those questions in a way that made me or the audience feel very comfortable, listened to, and not in this like super aggressive rah, you should know this and it's about hard work. Like shut the fuck up. Like everybody talks in that demeanor in your space. So you were refreshing, and it was things that then people shared with other friends because it was that easy to listen to.
Yeah.
And if you stick to that and continue to stick to that, whatever the style of content is, you're more likely to have people watch. That's just how it is.
No, and I appreciate that. I mean, that's definitely been one of the struggles too, is like figuring out how to adapt content wise just because of, life stuff. So, and that's something that for me, I'm definitely been working on and figuring out how to maintain that consistently,
Who do you watch as like your favorite, I guess, fitness creators?
My favorite fitness creators. I go in and out of stuff that I either think is like looks sick versus like, oh, I'd actually enjoy watching this. So like Max Taylor, he's like the redhead. He just competed in like a natural bodybuilding show. I don't really like know his personality from his content, but on Instagram, his content looks sick. He goes for that like old school Mike Menser like look, and it looks fucking sick. He's young, that's right? Dope. What?
He's young.
Yeah, he's young. He's like 21 or 22, something 22, like that.
What, Andrew Eubank, you like?
I mean, I'm friends with him. I met him when I was in LA and stuff. Yeah. We follow each other. I mean, he's pretty cool. But I would say from the looks, like the aesthetics, I'm a big fan of Max's content. I do have a very deep appreciation for Jeff Nippard's stuff.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because I get a lot out of it, but more so just because I know how much work he puts into that.
Yeah.
And I know that like he knows exactly what he's doing. He makes every single video, like everything specifically crafted for what he's trying to do. And the business side he crushes. Who else? I do really. I mean, I guess would you consider Huberman to be like not like fitness, right?
He's like the pinnacle. I mean, every man. I think every man,
Yeah.
should be listening to Huberman. Like
Yeah.
he has thoughts and answers to questions that we've had for years, and like you just grown up not knowing.
Yeah.
And he just has such a different perspective because he's so smart and he asks the right questions.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider him in the fitness space, but like we just talked about, he's fucking jacked. So clearly what he's doing and saying is right.
Yeah, and he does have a lot of people. I mean, his space is like actual health, wellness, that kind of shit. But it's like it's not necessarily like Jordan Peterson's psychological approach. It's the physical approach.
And for the people that aren't as deep as you, because you are pretty deep, like me, like the Peterson stuff, I can appreciate.
Yeah.
I can't listen to it too much. It goes over my head. Honestly, I don't know if it's his fault or my fault, but it's some of it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, it's
like,
too much.
Why am I thinking so much about life? Like, let me just go live.
Right.
The life. Like, these lessons are clear. I got it. Let me now go apply.
Yeah.
And I think Huberman is very scientific and objective based, which is very needed in a world that everybody has an opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
You don't know who the fuck to listen to.
Fuck, dude, I don't know. All right, so if Huberman's not really that, the thing is, like, there's a lot of like what I'll call mini creators that I enjoy watching, either because I'm really good friends with them or because I respect what they do. But there really aren't too many that come to mind that's like, oh man, I like this is the guy that I watch for inspiration, whatever. Like, really, I'm more into like, if I had to watch like athletes and stuff, like I'll watch like obviously Tyson, like people who are doing stuff in the world. It's not like their job is content creation,
Like Stan Everting.
Yeah, Stan Efforting. But yeah, man, I really don't. I mean, Lane Norton's somebody he's been on Rogan, I think, at least twice. He does nutrition.
Yeah. He's very like, so again, we talked about people that have grown because of their polarizing views. And his views are so polarizing, but like they were all pretty factual. And that he came across as like that. Dickhead is such an aggressive word, but like that's how he was very combative against what people were saying. And I understand it because some things people were saying were literally harmful to society. Whereas a guy like Stan Efferding, I feel like he never really was that polarizing. He's just such a likable dude.
He was also like a world champion powerlifter, bodybuilder, all this other shit. I mean, he was on Shark Tank. So like he's got quite a record, so, and you listen to him when he talks, but
I feel like that he says something and every guy is like,
all right, yeah, let me just take
don't stress. Okay, fine. Yeah. Salt my water, check. Yeah. But you know what? He also says things that are very practical. Like it's practical to eat the way he says to eat and train the way he says to train. Yeah. And other things people say, you're like, dude, I'm not doing that shit.
Well, and he speaks to a very specific population, right? So like the average guy, honestly, not going to get as much out of it, believe it or not, than someone like me, because when he talks, I know what he's talking about. When he says like the sleep apnea stuff, the CPAP
you
stuff,
get it.
The steak and the salmon, like I get it. I understand why you're telling me to do that. The average guy, like would he benefit from it? Absolutely. But is he going to get as much value from it per capita? No, because he's not at that level. Yeah. For him, he could just make the slightest change in his lifestyle, and he'll see a massive return on that.
Well, I've had my family, and now my family has adopted the 10-minute walk way more than I do. I don't walk anywhere, but every time they eat, they'll go for a 10-minute walk, and I like forced that down their throat forever, and now they do it almost 2-3 times a day.
Yeah,
those are little things that you just adopt things into your life that aren't hard to do.
Yeah,
they just go and do.
100%. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe one other would be like King of the Lifts. I don't like listen to every podcast for King of the Lifts, but the cool thing about them is that they're given. So I'm really good friends with the guy who runs it, Ryan Lapdat, but he is giving like a voice to a lot of powerlifters and stuff who otherwise would have no way of social media blowing up anything like that.
You appreciate that because that's
I think that's awesome. Cool.
What about Sam Selleck?
So here's the thing. I genuinely I like the clips. I think he's jacked. Like he looks like a mutant.
Yeah, he does.
I don't want to watch his stuff. Like I just don't I'm not going to put something on for an hour, but I do understand I can appreciate him. I can appreciate what he's doing. But dude, I don't know how you feel about people in your space, but it's hard when you're doing it. Because it's like, well, I don't want to put you on a pedestal. I can be inspired by some of content that I see, but at no point I'm gonna be like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch that next video. Like, it's like, bro, I'm not,
That's so funny because I do. I'll wait
Really?
for his. I see the hat, I see the hair. I'm like, I gotta watch this.
No, but like in your own space. Like, think about your own
No,
space.
I know. I said that's so funny because
Oh, yeah.
I watch, and I'm sure there's plenty of people in my space that I'll watch. And jealousy is not the word, but it's just like, I don't want to lose myself by watching him. Because if you
Yeah.
watch Sam Sulek every day, you would start wearing a hat and growing out your hair and talking the way he talks.
Yeah.
And you don't want to ever do that because you're not him.
Yeah.
But part of me, like, really just the one thing I appreciate about him the most is of how unwavering he is about himself. He does not think about being a CrossFit guy. He does not think about being a jiu-jitsu athlete. He is a bodybuilder through and through. He gets I've never seen somebody so excited to see their own chest pump.
I know.
God. I know. You guys see those things? Those
Well, you know what?
veins?
The unique thing about Sam, too, is that I feel like, I'm not going to judge his intellect regarding, or at least just his knowledge, I shouldn't say intellect, but his knowledge regarding training and stuff. Like, because who am I? I feel like we're all trying to figure things out. But what I do appreciate is that, first of all, he's not afraid to like go against the optimalist, which had its own wave, which I appreciate that. But then also I think that he's got this very like nonchalant, this is how I do it.
Right.
I'm not saying this is the best way to do it, but this is how I'm doing it.
Yes.
And I think there's something very genuine, very authentic about that. And the dude's fucking strong. Like, anybody who can throw 585 on their back, close stance, heels up on a plate, no knee sleeves, no belt, and just hit like 10 reps of squats, like you can't really argue that, So I do. I have a lot of respect for him, for his style of training, and I don't think I've ever seen a clip where he'll position himself as if he is the authority. He always positions himself as if he's you. He's like I've seen clips where he'll be like, yeah, so I was training like this, but now I think I'm going to try this because that wasn't really going well. But in the clips where he was training like that, he was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing, So it's not like he's saying this is the way.
Yeah.
Train really hard, no volume, tons of weight. It's more so just like, look, this is just what I'm doing right now. This is what I'm trying. This is what works for me, Yeah. And I think people appreciate that, especially in a world filled with people trying to like one up each other, like I am the authority. I know what I'm doing. I'm, whatever.
That's why he's so successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't give a shit about anything else but just being the best bodybuilder he can be.
Yeah.
I think people can apply that with like other light. And that's, again, from a content creation standpoint, just go and do what you could do the best.
Yeah.
Don't try to do what everybody else does.
Yeah. And I think really like, what hit it for him is that in a world filled with the edits and the cinematography and the cameras and
Post picture of his goddamn cat.
Dude,
Millions of likes.
Literally, like you can't get more raw than Sam. So it's like, and what's crazy too is that the fan base is so loyal.
He has a loyal fucking fan.
Every video, 300K. It's crazy.
The fitness community seems very loyal to the men more than the women, I want to say. And I don't know why. I think the women are like more, your loyalty is like maybe some creepy dudes just want to see your ass or whatever. But like the men seem to have it. Like you post and people are reposting. People are posting about you on their stories for whatever reason. They just really, really like and appreciate.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I think one of the biggest things is like, and if I have to give myself credit to anything, it's this. It's like I stand for something.
Yeah,
I have a brand,
exactly.
and I'm very firm with that. Like I try to be as transparent and as authentic and real as possible, but I do have a vision for myself, and I do have a brand, and I do have an ethic to me, and that I think some people love it, some people hate it, and that's just what it is, And I think like even with powerlifting, bro, like to a lot of people, powerlifting is a game. If you talk to the best competitors in the world, it's a game. It's a point system. It's bluffs. It's all this other shit. To me, it's like that's pussy shit. Like I'm here to be the best, and to be the best, this is a strength sport. Fuck powerlifting. It's about being the strongest on the platform. So that's what I'm here to do. I'm just going to give everything I have and be the strongest I can be. Some people, some of the best coaches in the sport, they all hate that I talk like that. But some people resonate with it, Yeah. And that's the difference. I think not that you're trying to be polarizing, but it's like what we were saying before. If you choose to be the most extreme version of yourself and own it in its entirety, then I think, people, people fuck with you like that. That's it. People will either fuck with you or they won't, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yes. Correct. You stand for something, and you also have a journey to follow, which is cool.
Yeah.
I think that may be one of your biggest difference. Like we said before, I can follow along and know that you're 10 weeks out or 9 weeks out. Like, oh shit, it's getting exciting. Whereas the other guys, they have to like find things to do. Like I'm on a bulk now, 10 weeks, and like And that stuff is harder for them to focus, like it's not as interesting, but they do have to do those things, because if not, you're kind of just going through the motions of posting another shirtless picture of yourself with a caption about burning ships.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's different phases of your life, man, too. Like, there for the longest time, I loved watching Christian Guzman. I loved like watching like.
But you
those
watched
guys.
his journey.
Yeah, I saw his journey, and then like, you know, again, you get to a phase of your life where you don't need that anymore. You know, you're not looking for that anymore. And or even for me, like I've met Sebum, like I've met some of these guys, and they're awesome people and stuff. But again, like whereas maybe some followers would look at them and put them on a pedestal, for me, it's like respectfully, like in the most respectful way. You're no different than me, brother. You know what I mean? Like what separates us is a lot less than you think. And the titles and the accolades and stuff, like that stuff will disappear at some point. It's just who we are. It's the relationship we have. It's the story. And so I have my vision for what I want. And so because of that, you know, I'm too focused in my lane to put anybody else above me in that way. And so I think that is also like a massive difference. If you're the type of content creator where you recognize you have a lane, you're in your lane, and you're doing what you can to be the best in your lane, then everything else will kind of come. You know, but if you're constantly looking at everybody else and trying to follow the trends and stuff like that, like I have a lot of friends who are in the fitness space who the way that they look at content is to take whatever's popping off, whatever they're trend, and recreate it. Nothing against it, but to me, that's cheap. Like that's not you. Yeah. And a lot of that content is so disingenuous. Like it bothers me. It's like you don't think that, you don't feel that way, you don't mean that. You know, you're doing this for the clicks and stuff. That's how you want to do business. That's fine. But you know, again, everybody's different. You find your lane. I think you try and be the best in your lane. And yeah, one of the benefits for me is I do have a lane. I have a journey. I have something that I'm driving towards.
And that you really should appreciate that, man, because not a lot of people do, and they get stuck. And they're forced to do stuff like that, and it's like you don't want to do it, but you know it works, and it sucks. It's a hard space to be in for some of these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
What time is it? That was like an hour and a half. Jesus Christ! Let's wrap this fucker up. All right, Gav, you could talk for hours, so we're gonna cut it at 1 hour and a half. Maybe you're gonna be back on. I think the title is gonna be Gavin Adin hates powerlifting. I like that. I was gonna say Gavin Adin hates Sam Sulek, but you weren't harsh enough on him. I was hoping you'd like.
I know we could give some like crazy ass soundbite. Oh, fuck, I don't know.
Fuck Sam
it's like,
Sulek.
Dude, bro's got to fucking cut his hair, man.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yo, I didn't say it. I didn't say it. Now that's it for today, everybody. As always, like, subscribe, share. Cheers, Gavin Adin. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, brother.